Jagannath, Shri Baladev, Shri Subhadra ki jai, Shri Shri Gauri Nitai ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Again, I want to thank everyone for coming this evening to Krishna's temple. And I was going to read a little bit from a book, Upadeshamrita, Nectar of Instruction, which is translated by our Paramacarya Srila Prabhupada, originally written by Srila Rupa Goswami, who was a medieval period Vaishnava saint, great teacher in our lineage. And I was going to read a particular verse, which is the third text, which talks about how one can be successful in spiritual life. Some of the different instructions and insights and philosophical inquiries taught in different places, but this particularly talks about how you can make sure you're successful. Nobody wants to do anything and fail. You don't start out with any project, whatever it might be, saying, I really hope I can fail at this. Right? Generally, you don't think like that. You think, I really want to make sure I'm successful. So whatever it is, you try to get some tips on how it will work well. Right? If you're going to invest in the stock market for the first time, you just don't walk downtown and get a newspaper or go online and decide you're going to, take your life savings and say, well, this name sounds good. You wouldn't necessarily do that. Or if you're going to drive a car for the first time, you just don't jump behind the car seat, you start the engine and hope you can figure it out. You want to get some tips to kind of help you be successful. So this verse talks about that. So read this and discuss a little bit and try to leave some questions, some time at the end for some questions. So the Sanskrit reads, Utsahan nistaya daryat tatat karma pravartanat sangachayat satovriti shadbir bhaktir prasidyati. So the translation is, there are 6 principles favorable to the execution of pure devotional service. 1, everybody know that? Some of us know that. What's the first one? Utsaha, being enthusiastic. 2, endeavoring with confidence. 3, being patient. 4, acting according to the regulative principles such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, hearing, chanting, and remembering Krishna. 5, abandoning the association of non-devotees, non-spiritually minded persons. And 6, following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas or the previous teachers. These 6 principles undoubtedly assure the complete success of pure devotional service. For those of you behind the trees there, I ask your forgiveness that you're sitting in the wooded area there. Hopefully it feels like a Vrindavan atmosphere a little bit over there. Anyway. So we'll read part of Prabhu's purport. It's a long purport, long commentary, 10 or 12 pages. We'll just read a few paragraphs and then discuss a little bit. So purport by Srila Prabhupada. Devotional service, Bhakti Yoga, is not a matter of sentimental speculation or imaginative ecstasy. Its substance is practical activity. So bhakti, yoga we practice, is practical activity. Srila Rupa Goswami, in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the book Nectar Devotion, has defined devotional service as follows. Uttama Bhakti, or unalloyed devotion unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, involves the rendering of devotional service in a way that is favorable to the Lord. This devotional service should be free from any extraneous motive and devoid of fruitive karma, impersonal jnana, and all other selfish desires. That's a quote from Goswami's other book. And Prabhupada continues, Bhakti is a sort of cultivation. As soon as we say cultivation, we must refer to activity. Cultivation of spirituality does not mean sitting down idly for meditation, as some may teach. Such idle meditation may be good for those who have no information of devotional service, and for this reason it is sometimes recommended as a way to check distracting materialistic activities. Meditation means stopping all nonsensical activities, at least for the time being. Devotional service, however, not only puts an end to all nonsensical, mundane activities, but engages one in meaningful devotional activities. In this regard, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Rupa Goswami, quote, "In the course of traversing the universal creation of Brahma, the whole material existence, some fortunate soul may receive the seed of Bhakti Lata, the creeper of devotional service, or the beginning of spiritual life, the seed of spiritual life. This is all by the grace of Guru and Krishna." End quote. The material world is a place of confinement for the living entities who are by nature anandamaya, pleasure-seeking. We all, want to be free from the confinement of the world of conditional happiness, but not knowing the process of liberation, we are bound to transmigrate from one species to another and from one planet to another. In this way, the living entities are wandering throughout the material universe. When by good fortune one comes in contact with a pure devotee and hears from him patiently, one begins to follow the path of devotional service. Such an opportunity is offered to a person who is sincere. The International Society for Krishna Consciousness is giving such a chance to humanity at large. If by fortune one takes advantage of the opportunity to engage in devotional service, the path of liberation immediately opens. One more paragraph. One should accept this opportunity to return home back to Godhead very enthusiastically. Without enthusiasm, one cannot be successful. Even in the material world, one has to be very enthusiastic in his particular field of activity in order to become successful. A student, businessman, artist, or anyone else who wants success in his line must be enthusiastic. Similarly, one has to be very enthusiastic in devotional service. Enthusiasm means action, but action for whom? The answer is that one should always act for Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. Om Gyana Tadvinda Shadana Anjana Shanakaya Chakshur Om Jandina Tasmai Shri Vedana Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Padamayam Didati Swapanantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare. 5:30. Okay. So, in this small book, as I mentioned earlier, and particularly this verse is giving insights on how one can be successful in our spiritual practice. We know in the Bhagavad Gita, which is our primary source of spiritual knowledge, our essential text, and really in every great scripture of the world, the underlying message is always there that the goal of life, or that the energy of life, shouldn't be spent in trying to accumulate material things. It's certainly there within Buddhism, it's there within Christianity, it's there within Islam, it's there within Jainism, it's certainly there within all the different schools of Hinduism, it's very prominent there within Vaishnavism, that rather than, as generally society tends to do, people working very hard, trying to get a lot of money, trying to, modern world, buy a car, and then another car, and then a fancier car, and a house, and then a bigger house, and a bigger house. Or on a more subtle level, people are interested in fame. They want to make some big discovery, so they go down in history as doing something significant. Or power. I live in Washington, D.C. That particular city is all about power. It reeks with the desire for power. But the scriptures, the Shastra, the great wisdom traditions, they teach us that we're spiritual beings, and these other material things that we may hope to accumulate or experience, they're just insufficient. They're just not enough And I always, there's a quote I think about a lot, maybe I've said here before, they interviewed the original founder of the great wealth of the Rockefeller clan, John D. Rockefeller, and they asked him how much money's enough. And he thought about for men, and he said, just a little bit more. Probably the wealthiest man in the world at that time, and his answer was, I just need a little bit more. So this is the nature of material things. You know, you buy a new car, you drive home, and then you feel really good, and then the next day your neighbor drives home with the limited edition of whatever you bought, and immediately your mind goes, oh no, he's got a better, and you just want to like enjoy your new car, but you can't because your mind starts telling you, fool, why did you buy that one? You should have bought this one, etc. Or you drive downtown for the first time and somebody scratches the side of the car, right? And we all know the more expensive the car, the more painful it is to get the scratch fixed, right? There's an inverse relationship there with your success factor and your vulnerability. I mean, frankly, even to a point that, you know, that we live in a world of broken relationships, the more beautiful your wife is, the more wealthy your husband is, the more anxiousness sometimes is there, because if she's so beautiful, somebody will come along who's more attractive than me, and maybe she'll get pulled away. Or if he's so wealthy, you know, he's so rich and famous and powerful, how many people will try to, you know, seduce him or pull him away from me? So the anxiousness comes in. So even the success, you know, probably describes sometimes that the wealthiest people, sometimes they have the hardest time sleeping. Sometimes the poor man just goes to sleep, he doesn't have a whole lot to worry about, but the rich person's always, what's going to happen with the stock market tomorrow? You know, you go to the bank these days, just try to cash a check. Most places I go, there's like the TVs on the screen there. It's not enough to like check the stock market once a week or at the end of the day. It's like moment to moment. What kind of pressure people are putting on themselves. But the scripture says, hey, even if you're completely successful, you know, so many people are on the world. It's changing now. Maybe more people want to go to China. But generally, everybody wants to come to America and be successful. Yeah, you know, come to America, be successful. The land with, you know, one of the highest rates of depression, one of the highest rates of suicide, one of the highest rates of drug addiction, right? Some big agency just said to the president, please declare the epidemic of the opioid addictions. It's a national epidemic. So come to America and relish the success of people here. So, you know, thoughtful people kind of think, well, you know, maybe something's wrong here. It doesn't seem to work out exactly right. I can remember even when I was in high school and, you know, talking with my friends about what are you going to do in life, what are your goals? And one of them wanted to be a doctor, one of them wanted to be a lawyer, one of them wanted to be a professor. And they asked me, what do you want to be? And I said, well, I'm not sure, but I know I want to be happy. And my problem was, I know a lot of doctors that are really miserable. I see them. I got friends whose parents are doctors, and they're not happy. And I got a lot of friends whose parents are lawyers, and they're not happy. And I know a lot of people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So which one of those things will actually lead me to be happy? And that's what the Bhagavad Gita asks us to ask that question. And again, every other great spiritual tradition throughout history asks that question, saying, something's wrong here. And even if one is successful, you know, one may accumulate things and feel relatively comfortable, relatively happy, and be able to kind of avoid the sense of time ticking in the background, but still time is ticking. Even you might think, well, I've got everything I wanted to. And we all know, we're practical people, we know when you are successful in the world, that then you live happily ever after. Like we all learned when we were 6 years old. You just need the right prince to come and you let your hair down out of the tower and he climbs up the tower and rescues you and you live happily ever after. Right? Of course, then they remake the films a few years later and talk about, no, actually, the good witch really was a bad witch and the bad witch was a good witch and all of that. It's much more confusing today. But even if you get what we think we need, it's temporary. And therefore the sages say, hey, Jesus said, don't lay up your treasures where moth and dust corrupt. So we're advised that we're spiritual beings, we should seek something that has some spiritual benefit, some longer lasting benefit. And Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita says, after many births and deaths, one who's actually knowledge seeks him and surrenders unto him. If we really have some knowledge of what the higher values are in life, we understand ultimately is to reconnect with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We're all looking for relationships in this world. We're looking for friends and family members and loved ones because that's our nature. We're seeking pleasure through relationships. So the Vedas and other teachings say ultimately you have to seek out that person who actually can reciprocate with us in a loving relationship perfectly. That's Krishna's ability. He's all attractive. Whatever and whoever we find attractive here, that quality or those qualities, they are found in him full. He's eternally youthful. He's eternally full of pleasure. And he is the best friend of every living entity. Therefore, we're advised to seek him out. And how we do that and how we can be successful is discussed here. So I want to look at three of these things in particular that's mentioned. The first one, utsaha. So we've taken up to one extent or the other spiritual life, where some of us are sadhakas, we've taken vows, we're executing so many different spiritual practices on a regular daily basis, and we're restricting so many of our activities to focus on spiritual life. Others of us, maybe we're making different levels of commitment. Some people maybe, wander into a Christian temple the first night because they hear the food's good, or they took the wrong turn at the Lutheran seminary and found themselves in a different place. But either way, we're here. So the question is, how do we be successful in our practice, in our experience, even if it's the first time visiting the temple, and from there up to those who've been practicing for 30, 40, sometimes 50 years. So a key is given here, the need to be enthusiastic. It's the first thing that's mentioned, utsaha. One has to be enthusiastic, meaning we have to maintain a positive mentality. And Prabhu mentions that in any endeavor you need some enthusiasm. If you go to, if you're a student, a PhD student, or undergraduate, whatever, and you go to the class, the professor says, Mr. Smith, you have any questions? Not really. Did you complete your assignment? Kind of. Did you read the studies? I looked at them. You're not going to be very successful. If you want to get a job for a top ranked company, you want to get hired by Amazon or Google, one of those places, like somehow you get in there for an interview and they ask you, Miss Patel, tell us why you work for the company. I'm not really sure why I want to work for you guys. Well, tell us what do you bring to the world to make it a better place? Not much. They say, well, have we showed you our exit? We'd like to show you a full tour of the building. Let's take the shortcut. The door's right here. Thank you very much. Don't call us, because we won't call you. Right? You have to be enthusiastic. As far as just any endeavor in this world. So in the same way, in spiritual life, we have to be enthusiastic, which means in part, Prabhupada says, endeavor with intelligence. He describes it some places, endeavoring with intelligence. So we make a choice. I want to apply myself to spiritual practice, and there's so many things involved in that. 9 different processes of devotional service, associating with the devotees. So much services can be rendered at the temple. So many different activities, serving the deity, serving our guru, serving the society at large. So in order to do that, what does it mean to be enthusiastic? It means we have to do with energy, with a positive energy, in the midst of a very negative world. Isn't it? I know I do a little work in media, my communications work, and it's a regular complaint. People talk about the media. Of course, it's changing these days. Social media is really so prominent. It may vary a little bit, but I think it's the same tendencies as old media. People would complain, why is the TV always negative? Why is the newspaper always so negative? It's just all about, fire and wars and terrible things. And why don't you just do some positive news? So it's a fact. Every once in a while, and they learned really quickly, some TV station would say, we're hearing from you and we're going to change our policies, and 30% of our news is going to be positive. So they have a story about, the school teacher that went into some, lower economic status of school that had everything working against him, and they turned it around and they sacrificed themselves and the kids' grades came up. And then they talk about the guy that, climbed the tree to rescue the kitty cat for the little 6-year-old girl that was crying. And then they talk about the entrepreneur that gave away 40% of his money to try to build a new library for computer access and all of that. And you know what they found out? The ratings dropped 30%. Because everybody wanted to watch the other station that was talking about the fire and how many people got killed in the 27-car crash and who got arrested today for, conspiracy and who embezzled how much money. Because that's where the mind goes. And I'm not making this story up. I can't quote you the television stations, but I could find it out if you really wanted to know. Some TV stations for sure, and I think newspapers, but I know for sure TV stations tried it. And within a couple of months, they just said, forget it. We're losing everything. We're losing our viewers. We're losing our advertisers. We're losing our finance. We're going to go bankrupt. People want the dirt. Now, I live in Washington, D.C. I know this is your experience in Philadelphia. In my city, everything is sweet and lovely. People love each other so much. They only speak positive things about each other in the state of the world. And every once in a while, they threaten to kill each other. But aside from that, it's a very wonderful place. But the rest of the country, and even in our own community sometimes, even in my own heart and my own mind, where do we go to? It's the age of Kali Yuga, the quarrel and hypocrisy, and we tend to go for the not so nice things. Prabhupada gives the example. He says there's two types of mentality. One is a bee, not a wasp, but a honey bee. The honey bee looks for the nice sweet flowers. Sometimes you see those, what are the fuzzy ones, the kind of cute ones? Isn't that the honey bee? Like a bumblebee? Yeah, they just buzz it from flower to flower to flower to flower to flower. And they're taking the nectar and then they go home and make honey or whatever they do. And then there's the fly. The fly flies right by the flower and he lands right on you where you scraped yourself yesterday and there's a little bit of not such nice things coming out of your skin and he's really happy. Right? Or he goes from there to some place where a dog got in the fence and answered nature's call and the fly goes right there. Now if you take the fly and you put him on the flower, he won't stay there. I don't want to be gender specific, or he or she won't stay there. Not criticism of men in particular. Okay, he or she won't go. They'll go. They want to go to some dirty place. So we tend to be subject to the same modes of nature, even if we're even as devotees, even as spiritually inclined people. Our mind tends to go to the negative, isn't it? That's just our tendency. So being utsaha, being enthusiastic, means first of all not allowing ourselves to go negative or to go rogue, and to catch ourselves. And this is part of the yoga process. Yoga means controlling the mind and the senses. And the mind and the senses, the mind and the tongue especially, tend to go a little negative. And we know, and some people are more prone to this than others. But if we want to be successful in spiritual life, we have to curb that. We have to teach our mind to be like honeybees and not like flies. And we see this sometimes pans out in a devotional community. Let's say there may be somebody who's really enthusiastic to do service. And they are very generous in what they contribute. And they're always ready to do any service. And they come late sometimes. So you ask somebody, what do you think about Vishnu? He's always late. Forget the contributions. Forget the service. He's always late. And there's someone else who just loves to every time you see them, they tell you, did you read Prabhupada said? Or I read in the Krishna book last night. Bhagavad Gita says they're always quoting scripture. They're always really enthusiastic to help devotees. But maybe sometimes they're a little forgetful. And yes, somebody, what do you think about, Sita Dasi or whatever? They go, she always forgets things, etc. This is our tendency. So Rupa Goswami is saying, okay, you're conditioned souls, we're conditioned souls, we're trying to get out of the materialistic situation, awaken spiritual life. So how do we do that? One is we have to cultivate a positive mentality, utsaha, enthusiasm. And how do we do that? Part of it is just very practical. Prabhupada said it's a matter of practical activity. It's not idle meditation or mental speculation, emotional speculation. It's practical activity. So practical activity means, what do you think of so-and-so? Well, they're just always enthusiastic to serve. What do you think so-and-so? She's really forever trying to help the devotees. You catch yourself and you train yourself. Just like I do some media training, public speaking training, and one of the things we try to help people be aware of is we all tend to do those things, all of us. So part of it is helping devotees. When you catch yourself doing those, or not just anybody, public speaker, if you catch yourself stalling, you just be aware of it and you stop and you just pause. And the mind wants to trick us into saying, no, there has to be some sound. So as an example, someone might be, they're speaking about Prabhupada, and they say, Prabhupada is a great teacher. That's a very weak statement. But if you say the same thing, you just pause. Srila Prabhupada was a great teacher. The pause is powerful, isn't it? So the pause of if I start to go rogue, if my mind starts to go negative, my tongue starts to say something that I know is not pleasing to Guru or Krishna or the person I'm talking to, I can pause. Silence is golden, and catch myself and just think, actually, let's just stop right there. And if we hear other people say similar things, describe that, different examples of different great devotees, they would never listen to criticism of others. Somebody comes and says, Prabhu, did you hear so-and-so said so-and-so to this? Say, well, I got some other service to do. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Or even better yet, let's say Krishna Archana Prabhu comes to me, or he goes to Vishnu Gadaprabhu and says, Anuttama is really a rascal. He's doing this, and this, and this. And Vishnu Gadaprabhu, being the mature senior devotee, he says to Krishna Archana, Prabhu, obviously you're concerned about him. I think you need to speak to him. He'd benefit from hearing your perception. Now, if Krishna Archana Prabhu is genuinely interested in helping me improve, and therefore he's noticing my shortcomings out of genuine spiritual interest, he's going to come to me and say, Prabhu, can I share a couple things with you? And I'm going to genuinely welcome that, and he's going to be my friend, because by pointing those things out, I'm going to learn how to do better. And ultimately, spiritual life is all about improving. And we do need to sometimes help each other by pointing out our shortcomings, how we can do better. But if Krishna Archana Prabhu comes to me in the spirit of not such benevolence, or if he goes to Vishnu Gada or Sukada Prabhu, or everybody in the place is Anuttama, blah, 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 doesn't help me, does it? Does it help him? No. What's it do for his utsaha, his enthusiasm? It kills it. And then you end up creating this environment. We end up with a community where I'm sitting talking to Krishna Archana when we're talking about Krishna Das, some negative things, and then Krishna Das walks up. Oh, what are you guys talking about? Nothing. The weather. Yeah, that's it. We're talking about the weather. Immediately Krishna knows, this doesn't sound like a very positive thing. He feels uncomfortable. You pick it up. We're not dumb people. You sense that kind of negativity. Now Krishna Das hangs around for a while and we talk about the weather. And then I leave. What's Krishna Das going to talk about with the other devotee? They're talking about me. Oh, there goes a neutral, blah, 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 blah. That's the fly mentality. So Rupa Goswami says, can't be like that. Can't be like that. Now, we all tend to be like that, but we have to overcome that. We all tend to be stuck in repeated birth and death. We all tend to be victims of greed and envy and lust and the godly concept of life. But we've made a decision. We're going to overcome that. But it means more than just, wearing neck beads or, a gopi dot or gopi skirt or sari or dhoti or whatever, or just coming to the temple. It means a transformation of our consciousness. And part of that, again, is enthusiasm. So part changing the mentality and just acknowledging, wow, I'm getting kind of negative here. Sometimes it just means, I'm tired, I think I should just be quiet and go home. Or sometimes it means I'm allowing myself to become negative. How do I channel that in a positive way? We want to see how things can be better, first and foremost with me. Sometimes we think, well, people will benefit if I'm brutally honest with them. So let's be at least as brutally honest with myself. Not in a condemning way, but let me openly and honestly assess, well, where do I need to improve? And I say to my friends, Prabhu, Mataji, I'm having trouble with this. Sometimes I'm disrespectful, please forgive me. Help me learn how to be more respectful. That kind of honesty is maybe a more obvious one. Not waiting for things to happen. It's like, whose responsibility is that? Theirs. What would happen if when Prabhupada was in Vrindavan, after he took sannyas, the Prabhupada had thought, somebody should execute Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's mission. Somebody really needs to get that done. And I'm like really disturbed that nobody's getting that done. And I don't know why they don't get it done. How come they don't get it done? Did you know they're not getting it done? You know all the reasons they should do it? They should. Why don't they do it? That's again the materialistic mentality. It's like in the office. Sometimes it's like that. Not every office environment is like that, but some are like that. But Krishna consciousness, when I was originally devotee in the Denver community, there was a very simple, enthusiastic devotee. He used to chant, his little mantra was, he who sees the need does the deed. Prabhupada saw the need and he did the deed. He was 70 years old, he had no money, no institutional support. He had a letter of invitation to stay at somebody's house he'd never met for a few weeks, and then he'd be on his own. He had no money. We all hear he brought $7 worth of rupees, which you couldn't convert into dollars. The only money he had, he got off the boat, he sold one of his sets of Bhagavatams to the captain of the ship. That's utsaha. Isn't it? There's so many stories. There's one Prabhupada in the very earliest times in New York, he was going to speak at some event, and I believe this is Ritola Lilamrita. One young man was there, and he was noticing there was a person kind of sitting next to him, and he asked him, "Are you from India?" He said, "Yes," and they started chatting a little bit, and then they introduced the speaker. He said he was surprised that this very humble, sweet man he was talking to got up and went on stage. He was the speaker. And then Prabhupada went through his speech, and then he called this young man up again near the end. He said, "Would you do me a favor?" And he said, "Sure." He said, "Just stand over there and sell my books for me." That's how little help he had. Just some strange guy he met. I remember the young man was Muslim. He wasn't even Hindu. What to speak of, Vaishnava or follower or anything. He never met Prabhupada before, some different religious tradition. But Prabhupada, in his enthusiasm, welcomed his participation, and this man was inspired by him. So, Prabhupada saw the need, and he made things happen. So that's part of of what we need to do to be successful in our spiritual life, in our Krishna consciousness. This is where we see there's an opportunity to take up the responsibility. Of course, we work in a community. There's sometimes more structure, sometimes less structure. We have to work with other people. It's not that we just come up with our own crazy ideas. I remember years ago, again in Denver, there was one woman that had, she was a wonderful devotee, and she also had a particular disease that sometimes she would kind of get disoriented. And one day she came into the temple in the middle of the night and took all the paintings down and put them in the trash out back. And another day later, she went into the kitchen and she took all the spices and she threw them in the trash, and she took the trash and put them in the spice rack. So you don't have to be proactive like that. We want to work together and be cooperative and all those kind of things. But but we want to be proactive, utsaha. We want to apply energy and make something happen. And Krishna reciprocates with that. If we're enthusiastic, he's even that more enthusiastic to help us. So second quality that's mentioned briefly, confident. If we're confident, it says success is guaranteed. So what does confident mean? It means despite the obstacles, despite the challenges, that we persevere. And we know that Krishna is going to help us. And again, we look to our acharyas. We look to Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So many obstacles. At that time, if we study the history, the whole Vaishnava culture had become somewhat covered. A lot of people were misrepresenting Vaishnavism. The reputation of Vaishnavism was kind of soiled, you could say. You couldn't even find, the Chaitanya Charitamrita was practically not available. It was very difficult. And he was very determined, and he persevered. He was confident of success. And therefore, he was determined to do that. We look at Srila Prabhupada. There's so many examples. I mean, he has this, at one point in New York, he has this tiny little room where he's living. He's got to walk 6 blocks just to be able to cook or to use a restroom. And he comes home one day, the janitor tells him, someone broke into your room. He must have gone through the transom and come down. It happens all the time. Prabhupada could immediately tell this is the guy that did the crime. And his typewriter was stolen. He had hardly anything, his typewriter was stolen. But he persevered, he continued, he didn't let that stop him. We think, Prabhupada, before he came to the West, he started his whole League of Devotees in Jhansi. He had a beautiful building, he had a whole prospectus put together, he had people coming, he was starting to get the support of important people. But there was somebody in a powerful position decided they wanted the building. So the next thing he knew, the building was gone. Even though they promised to him, and I think he might have even had some kind of lease, but he certainly felt he had it for a period. They just took it away. But it didn't shake his determination. It didn't shake his confidence. And of course, we know Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna is there. He's got Krishna. Because he's got Krishna, he's completely confident. But when he looks out on the battlefield, it was almost a ratio of 2 to 1. The greatest warrior is on the other side. Bhishma's on the other side. He's not on their side. Drona is on the other side. He's not. My guru is on the other side. The patriarch of the whole dynasty is on the other side. But he was confident because he knew that Krishna was there and that Krishna was going to help him. So we need to have a similar degree of confidence. I was remembering in I think it's in the new video, Joy of Devotion. Maybe it's an older World of Hare Krishna, but they interviewed Tom Hopkins, Professor Tom Hopkins, who was one of the first scholars to meet Prabhupada. And he gives his example, and he kind of chuckles about Prabhupada wanted to start Back to God magazine. So he asked, I think, Roy Rama, one of his disciples, to go start a magazine. Tom Hopkins says, I don't know if he'd ever read a magazine. But Prabhupada told him to do it. So he had the confidence, okay, I'm going to go start a magazine for Prabhupada. So the similar way to develop that degree of confidence that Krishna will help us and I can be successful in whatever I'm doing. One of the little services that I get to do, one of my favorite services, is a few years ago I started reaching out to a very interesting group of people that had some questions about our movement and our coming to the West at the time it did, in the period of so much social change and issues like that. And they call themselves they've changed it now, it used to be called the anti-cult movement. These are people that basically think if you join something, I don't want to minimize it, if you join something so different, chanting mantras, in the past they used to say just being a vegetarian, you must have something. You've been manipulated. You've been influenced in an unfortunate way. So one of my roles is to walk in with tea like an devotee and say, hi, my name's Anuttama. And I'm not crazy, and Hare Krishnas are pretty good people after all. It takes a little while to build that relationship up. But I do that with great confidence because I know Krishna's on my side, I'm on Krishna's side, and that actually we're doing the right thing. And that people may have some misunderstanding of the depth and the wonders of Vaishnava culture, but if they're explained to them, they'll appreciate it. And people's hearts can really be changed. So we have that kind of confidence. Krishna will protect us and empower us. And then the last one of these three that's probably the most difficult. What's the third one?
Patience.
Patience, right? You kind of think it's almost a contradiction. I'm supposed to be enthusiastic, I'm supposed to be confident, Okay, let's make it happen now, isn't it? But you're supposed to be patient. So you have to be confident, you have to endeavor with enthusiasm, you have to be confident you're going to be successful, but then you also have to be patient. For a lot of different reasons, and the main one may be because Krishna is the boss. So I know what I'm supposed to try to do, but I'm not the controller. And ultimately, everything's up to him. And if there's different obstacles that may be there, I have to persevere. I have to be determined. I have to be patient, and things don't act on my time. And these three things are especially true in terms of working with devotees, because Krishna's kind of mystical. He kind of sees things. All right, here's a person who wants to make spiritual advancement, and here's some other people who want to make spiritual advancement. Here's someone who wants to awaken their love for me, and here's someone who wants to serve in a spiritual society and uplift the world. And they're all kind of like, like the Christians say, broken, like broken parts. They're not fully manifesting their spiritual qualities. So let's do this. Let's put them all together under the same roof and let them work on each other. Great system, isn't it? That's Vaishnava Sangha. Take a bunch of people that have some good qualities and a few things we brought from the past. We're all like mixed, we're like a mixed bag. And you put us all together in the room and say, okay, you're going to work on each other. So that the person that's a little proud gets to work with a person that can't stand pride. And the person that's like really enthusiastic has to learn how to be tolerant with the people that aren't so enthusiastic. And the person that loves to chant has to deal with a person that just wants to clean the pots and doesn't really want to come to the chanting. And the person that really likes to be renounced has to learn how to talk to people with 6 kids from the ages of 1 to 7, etc. And that's Krishna's plan for us. And then on top of that, he says, okay, in whatever spare time and energy you have, try to share it with other people that may not have any interest at all in spiritual life. And in this way, we're given the opportunity to develop patience, develop enthusiasm, develop our confidence, and Krishna helps us. And therefore we can be successful. And one last little story about patience and enthusiasm and confidence. You remember when the first ISKCON wedding, and Jamuna, who was not Jamuna yet, she was Joan, later one of the, let's say, early and contemporary saints of the Hare Krishna movement. She came out to help her sister's wedding, and she was Prabhupada's assistant for cooking. So Prabhupada told her to wash her hands, and then now and then she'd say, Swamiji, I need to have a cigarette. And Prabhupada would say, okay, go outside. And then when she'd done, he'd say, now wash your hands. And then later on, she wanted to smoke a cigarette. Prabhupada said, okay, go outside. And then come in and wash your hands. So here's a person, left Vrindavan, smoking, come on, maybe it wasn't certainly not a spiritual activity, but he tolerated that. He was patient with her. And he was still enthusiastic to engage her. And then, of course, the task he gave her to do was wash the pot. And the pot had a lot of, and she describes it, the pot had a lot of things burned in the bottom of the pot. So Prabhupada said, just, go away. And there was no sink, so she went in the bathtub and was scrubbing the pot, got some of it off, brought it back. Prabhupada said, this is very nice. Very nice. There's just a little more here. Can you please take care of that? So she went back in the bathtub and scrubbed for another 20 minutes or so. And now you're starting to see the bottom of the pot. Just a few black spots, and she brings it back. Prabhupada said, oh, that's very nice. That's very good. There's just a few other spots here. So she almost spent a big part of the afternoon just scrubbing this pot. That's the kind of enthusiasm that Prabhupada wanted, and that's the kind of patience that Prabhupada exhibited. So we need to develop that quality of patience and that quality of enthusiasm, and then along with that, the confidence that if we do that, then we'll be successful in spiritual life. Okay? So I'll stop there. Anybody else enthusiastic in the room to ask a question? Any questions or comments? Just a couple minutes. You asked some this morning. Any questions or comments? Yes. Swaito. Prabhu, according to Malati, and Mataji, according to others. So.
You said that it starts with you. When you have to do a service, you walk by something that needs to be done. It starts with you.
Starts with me.
Yeah.
I didn't say you. It doesn't start with you. It starts with me.
Yeah. So me.
Ever repeat that? It starts with me. It starts with me. Not you. It starts with me. Okay.
So, is there a way of, is there somewhere anywhere Prabhupada said that it starts with me, but then you have to somehow know your limits?
Oh, of course. No, balance has to be there. That's one of the big trip-ups in spiritual life, is we try to do too much too fast, and then we don't take ourselves into consideration. We have physical needs, we have emotional needs, we have intellectual needs, we have a need for sleep, we have a need for eating, we have a need to take care of our kids, we have a need to take care of how. You got to do all those things, but we try to simplify them. And then with the extra time, we give that to Krishna. So balance is extremely important. Extremely important. But we have to make sure balance doesn't become lethargy. And enthusiasm can't become fanaticism. We have to be a little mature. So we push ourselves, but like they talk about these days, they use the language, we should be in the stretch zone, not the comfort zone, and not the panic zone. Right? And if you don't know what that means, take a regular yoga class out there and they'll teach you how to stretch and hopefully not panic and get you out of comfort. Any other questions? Do you have a question? Okay. Archana, go ahead. Oh, here, yes.
I think I am confident, I think I am enthusiastic, but how to increase the perseverance? Like, I think I'm like with that. I work for the multinational company, but sometimes I think I'm not perseverant.
So I can say specifically in your spiritual life, one is through the practice of sadhana, we develop those qualities. That's one thing. By chanting, by hearing, eating Krishna Prasada, just this practice itself helps us develop it. The second thing is it comes through practice. We keep practicing it, and it comes. And the third very important thing is association. If we want to be positive, associate with people that are positive. If we want to be determined, associate with people that are determined. So those three things. Spiritual practice will help awaken it. Just practice doing it. I recently had moved. I'm a Grasta, I had a house. Krishna arranged for a while, things got bigger. Now I'm at a stage of life, things are getting very small, very fast. So I'm like unloading things. It was our house, and it was an office for business I had, and then all kinds of stuff loaded over from business. And it was like so painful. It took weeks to like try to move. And my whole meditation was down and out. And sometimes I'd stop and think, well, wait, is this the best way? Is this the most efficient way? And I tell myself, no, don't think about it. Just, you have to get stuff from upstairs, downstairs, and out. So as long as you're going down and out, you're moving in that direction, keep going, don't stop. And I went through periods of time, it's like, I'm finished, I can't keep doing this. But there was nobody else to do it, I had to do it. So just keep going down, keep going down. So keep chanting Hare Krishna, keep coming to the temple, keep associating devotees. You walk in the parking lot, you see somebody like left their plate on the ground, okay? You pick it up. Okay? You see another one, you pick it up. You see another one, you pick it up. Okay? You see a mess, you pick it up. By the way, I'll make an official announcement. Somebody mentioned on the governing body commission, I'm going to use all the authority vested in me by Srila Prabhupada to hereby designate there will be a lost and found box in the office. And if you leave anything in the temple room for now, it's going to go in the lost and found box.
Actually, there's a huge bunch of stuff there.
A huge bunch of stuff already. See, with enthusiasm, we've already seen tremendous progress. So, if by chance it was your, I'm an older generation, so I would say suntan lotion, but these days it's sunblock. That was your bottle of sunblock, yellow in the back corner, that was there for the last day and a half. It's in the lost and found box. Or if you left your water bottle. So, little things. Little things, little things. We're a big community. And we can do big things, but it takes small steps. So small steps one at a time. Associate with the right people, spiritual practice, and just push yourself a little bit. Is that okay? There's other answers too, but those are three that come to my mind. Anything else? Anything else from the ladies' side? Kirtan starts. Prashadam. That's why there's no questions. This is rigged against the speaker. This is completely rigged, because how do you get questions when everybody knows as soon as they stop, we're going to get dinner? It's a totally unfair system, but it's a very smart one, because dinner is much more attractive than whatever answers I could offer to the next question. Thank you very much for your time and attention. Enjoy the feast. Please endeavor to be enthusiastic and patient and confident. And please, it's not mentioned here, maybe even more important, it's told many places. Prabhupada says one place, the most important quality of Krishna, I think it's in the Krishna books, is the most important quality of the Supreme Lord. Anybody know what it is? It's forgiveness. Okay, so if we're devotees, we're supposed to be His servants. That means we're acting as His agents, right? We're supposed to represent Him and do what He does, try to fulfill His purposes. So if we're not forgiving, be enthusiastic, be confident, be patient, but we also have to be forgiving, which starts with me. Be forgiving of yourself, and then equally as much be forgiving of others. You know, encourage each other to be enthusiastic and determined, but also be a little forgiving of each other, because we all make big mistakes. We all screw up. And one of the big problems when you live in a community, because it's calling you, but we forget what you did right yesterday. But I remember what you did wrong 20 years ago. So we want to try to wash that clean and start by thinking, let's endeavor, think positively, act positively, make things happen, and then things change. Prabhupada was one person, in the 1960s, came to America in the middle of radical discontent and filled people's heart with hope. Filled them with hope. In one interview, Prabhupada was talking about hippies, and this reporter asked him, what is a hippie? And Prabhupada said something extraordinary. And then he laughed. He said, you know better than I do. He said, well, we're turning those hippies into happies. So we're helping turn lost souls into happy people. But it takes effort. So let's forgive each other, support each other. And don't expect too much, but encourage each other as best we can. And if we do that, Krishna says there's no one more dear. He says in the Gita, there's no one more dear to me than the one who preaches. That doesn't mean the one who tells everybody else what's wrong. Preaching is the one who helps others be enthusiastic and gives them faith and hope and confidence and helps them with a sense of love, you know? You're doing good. We all know what's wrong with ourselves. We don't need somebody else to point out what my shortcomings are. I need somebody to help inspire me to keep going. That's what it means, loving community, devotional community. So let's take Prasadam together. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Radha Shada Bihari ki jai. Jagannath Baladev Subhadra ki jai. Jai ki jai. Vrindavan Mataji's new announcements ki jai.
Anuttama.